This graph, which is called a step function, shows how the number of passengers on an airport express van changes over time. The graph shows a trip between a city and the airport. Note that the endpoints of the steps are either open or closed. The open circles are there to show where the step ends, but they are not part of the graph. Why is this characteristic important in order for the graph to represent a function? Write a description of what is shown by this graph. What does the long horizontal line segment on the graph represent? Um, so first and foremost, this is a standard graph. You got the time in minutes on the bottom, number of passengers on the top, and I believe the horizontal lines, of course, show the time in minutes, like how long the flight was, or like when it started, and of course how many people were on the flight. The open circles are important to signify how long the flight was and when it ended, and that's important for a function. Also, um, start and end points. I believe so. Um, what else did I have in chart? I confidently believe that you need the endpoints or the open circles at the end of the graph to basically just signify like or to signal like when the graph ended, because we know like on a standard number line or graph, um, the different arrow points or endpoints signify when the graph ends, and if it's just two different arrow points, you know that the graph just goes on indefinitely. So it's very important when it comes to functions to have endpoints, so you know, well, it's for accuracy, numerical accuracy, and just to know like basically, yeah, when the graph ended. This piece also reminds me of, I can't remember what section, but we went over a section in class where we had two different endpoints, or it was more like a number line, and we were figuring out like some real numbers, indefinite numbers, and using it to solve problems or to help us to solve problems also. But as I sit here and look at this graph, it really isn't too much to it. Like I said, you got the number of passengers on the left, ranging from 0 to 20, and then you got the time in minutes, and then you got each of these different points signifying how many passengers and how much time it took for them to travel. Um, and that's another reason why these endpoints are so important, because if you didn't have them, you wouldn't have known how much time it took each individual um transport, how much time each individual transport took. So you got this one going from, I'm gonna guess that's, let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, yeah, 10 uh in minutes. So you can say this took what, 30 minutes. You can say this took, is that 50 minutes? 50, 40, one or the other. One of, I'm guessing this is like 20 minutes. 20, I guess these are your tens. But yeah, it just shows why the endpoints are so important to the graph. Um, and I guess also from looking at the bottom of the graph, you can kind of infer what type of transportation is going on to help you better understand the problem. Like we know if you're talking about air transport, it's probably not going to take minutes, or the graph probably wouldn't be in minute increments. It would probably be hours or maybe days. So I guess from looking at this, well, yeah, yeah. So, and another thing, looking at this, like, do you think a car could fit like 19 people? So it's a bunch of different things to think about on this graph to help you better understand the problem as a whole, and the endpoints tie in to just make it, you know, all more important. But yeah, that is pretty much it and everything that I can see and understand from the graph. So, um, that concludes.